So I should probably explain this before we go too far. I'm not a YouTuber. I don't know what I'm doing with any of this equipment. I'm planning a paddle, a sea kayak from Clairview to Mackay, about 320 kilometres through the Northumberland Islands. And I figured I'd give it a go at documenting it. And I've kind of done that before, but in a very basic, crappy way. It just seems like the sort of thing I guess people do these days. Maybe someone will enjoy it more than my other videos. Alright, bye-bye Percy Island. That's the last little point. Now I'm going to get some swell starting to come through. Heading for Pine Peak. Not very far, probably 10-ish K now. Hello. Where's my dolphin friends? So I've arrived on Pine Peak Island, just set up camp and got established. Got here about 2 o'clock after a wonderful little run over. You know, just popping along. The wind wasn't really with me. Well, I was a little bit at one stage, but yeah, it was just good fun through the channel. Saw some dolphins and sharks in the centre, all circled around the boat. And then got here to low tide, which I expected. Had no idea what to expect in terms of getting in. I thought there might have been a little channel, but there wasn't. But it actually was pretty cool. I ended up getting out and walking the kayak in as the tide came in. And the tides are so big here, they come in at a slow walk. So doing that, got to walk over the sort of flats and see all the creatures coming through. Top little spot here, other than the tide access, certainly 1 metre or so. There's a sort of grassy area up on top there. I guess doesn't look natural to me, so people have done some stuff, some line wrapped around some trees, but I'm happy down here. I've got my hammock set up. Tomorrow morning's early-ish launch, 5:30, so just on daybreak, and shooting northwest, which is almost directly downwind, to Penrith is the plan for 70 kilometres. Winds don't seem to have been quite as crazy as the highest forecasts. Well, they're not crazy, but certainly not 20 knots most of the time, probably more like 15. So 15's kind of easy and manageable. 20 knots, especially when it gusts up at times, you get those squalls coming through. You can maybe get a little spicy depending on what the currents are doing and where. But yeah, tomorrow, touch wood, should be just a cruisy, if there's such a thing for 70 kilometres, cruisy run down. One must get a little tour of the campsite. Nice tree conveniently put there to help me dry out my stuff. There I've got all my goodies unbagged. A lot of that will get packed away before I go to bed, either in the kayak or in the rat bag, because you just don't know what sort of creature's getting around when I dig into my stuff. Recharging my watch there. This is my hammock setup. Don't know how that'll turn out in the light. This is an underquilt. These things get surprisingly cold, which is the beauty of a hammock, because in summer you can actually sleep up here, or mostly you can. But even the nights here, geez, I don't even know if they're much below 20 degrees, but you can feel the cool. And then this rain fly goes over the top. keeps me very snug. Also important, tip for the first timers, make sure you got drip lines. When it does rain, water will run down these lines, and if you don't have drip breaks along the way, I'll go straight into your hammock and you'll end up with a wet night. Kayak sitting there on the trolley, ready to go. I think we're well above high tide, but I even just strung a little string on it to hold it into place. So it should be fairly quick to pack up camp tomorrow. I'll get up at 4:30, but I think I'll easily at a relaxed pace make that sort of 5:30 start. So about halfway now, roughly 35 kilometres in. I can see Penrith Island in the distance. It's probably not going to show up in the video. I haven't even been able to see it for the last sort of 5k or so, which has been cool. Conditions are nice, not too crazy, following the sea, just tapping along quite easily at about 8 kilometres an hour on average. So problem with that is that gets me in right on the low tide, and I'm told there is a kind of way you can sneak in right on the low tide with the kayak, but you better tap another hour or two on top of that. So just going to tap along at this pace. If I get there a little bit later, it's probably a good thing, but yeah, you can always just walk in like I did yesterday as well. One thing with a good following sea like this, that even with the loaded boat, which frankly handles more like a fishing trawler than a wave ski, you could pick it up and probably quite easily average sort of 10 kilometres an hour or so. Just a matter of accelerating enough to get up to the speed of the waves and then keeping on it with little bursts in between. Now, that is fun and it's so tempting a lot of the time. On these longer trips, the fatigue, if you do that, especially with a loaded boat, which is pretty hard to bring up to speed, eventually it gets to you. I've done that, so, you know, I could turn up to camp buggered, I could turn up to camp fresh and ready to go tomorrow, so just tap along quite easy like this at that 8-ish average, which probably means travelling pace 8.5 when you take out your little breaks, or even 9 maybe. Certainly take advantage of the waves when the opportunity presents, but at a gentle pace. Maybe a bit like for the ocean ski guys, if you've ever tried to do that thing where you try to catch as many waves as you can with no strokes or limited number of strokes. We can't quite get away with that when you got 70 or 80 kilos of water, food and camping gear, but sort of need to keep paddling. But similar principle, like here, just trying to get the easy opportunities to use the waves, but not going too aggressive like you would in a proper downwinder, to try to save that energy a bit. On the last day, or maybe the last hour even today, feeling good, I might go for it a bit more. It is tempting at times, but if you good runners line up, but yeah, you just got to know your limits and manage your intensity for the task at hand. And this task at hand is 70 kilometres today, and then I'll probably run to Scawfell tomorrow. It's another 40k or so, and then spend the day there. So just keep it down a bit, still making pretty good time for not a lot of effort, so I can't really complain. I'll wait. Good morning. Penrith Island is the location. I'm just halfway through packing up now. Fairly leisurely start this morning. I've got about a 40-kilometre crossing over to Scawfell and intending to spend a couple of days there. It's meant to be a pretty spot. Check it out. Yesterday from Pine Peak was pretty good actually. Following seas the entire way just about, so with a leisurely sort of, I did something on the water, but whether the voice will come through, a leisurely sort of tap, averaging about 8k an hour total time. Did come in as I was not concerned, but flagged right on the low tide, which just meant getting out and waiting an hour or so as it came in, walking in the kayak. The area which I'd scouted out and been told to come in, it does still need a metre or so of water. You can't get in on the lowest tide, though anything more than a metre and it's pretty good. Conditions, I think yesterday was mostly around 15 knots, maybe a bit more at times. Expecting the same or a tad more today. It'll be interesting going to Scawfell, having a look at the cliffs and the like, and getting a bit of rebound potentially in this corner, just before we go into the protected little bay. Good to get a good night's sleep. Again, loving the hammock setup. I'll give you a quick tour actually. Just in the middle of taking this down, you can see it just goes in these little snake skins they call them, so very simple. I just pull those off the trees now and wrap them up and into the kayak. The kayak's actually down the beach a little bit. It was a bit hard wheeling along the soft sand from where I landed, but I've got all my crap here, just getting sorted. Probably get away. Let's see if we can see Scawfell actually. Well, roughly 8 o'clock, which should be good. The tide will take me out a bit, so I'll just aim in. Yeah, Scawfell's that big one. You can probably see faintly. Nice spot actually. Would be a cool spot on under some more calm conditions to actually hang out. And yesterday I did get that as well. I could see Bushy and it was very annoying, but such is life. Love these Lagoon launches, so calm and easy. Get in, wash the little feet, make sure there's no sand in there. She won't be like this later. The landing's good. Sure it's all comfortable. Go. Spray skirt on. Attach the tether, just in case. Worst thing that can happen out there is you lose your boat, connection with your boat, and it's very easy when it's windy. So even though we all practice to hang on to it, if you do happen to go over and go out, which is unlikely upon unlikely, but still, that there just means that again, another backup option. Not going to lose the kayak, then I just got to get myself back in and check the waterworks. Beautiful, because hell on earth would be being out in the hot sun paddling for half a day or a day without water, so I always just give that a little check and we are good to go.